Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. It's a DFS preview for the 2021 Honda Classic. Before I get into the video, I do want to remind you guys can find timestamps in the description. Also, hover over the progress bar on YouTube. You will find it's cut into segments, and those segments will tell you what they are by hovering over them. But getting into this preview, what I typically like to cover in these types of videos is basically just your general information of the tournament with all the golfers in it. So I like to look at, the golf courses being played. I like to look at how many golfers are in the field, how many golfers are going to make the cut, which is usually universal each tournament, so it really doesn't change. Looking at withdrawals, weather forecasts, tournament fact sheets, course history, recent form, and then going a little bit deeper and covering historical salaries and optimal lineups, as well as basically the first four buckets in the bucket system. I've been toying with the idea of kind of scrapping the general information part, and actually let me tell you why. Because if you watch these videos regularly, or if you've already visited here and you know what the strategy videos are, I'm never telling you to play one stat category or another. I'm not telling you I'm not necessarily telling you to pick the best golfers out of a stat category or anything like that. So basically, I guess to explain that better is, if we were to sort by the best course history guys, I'm not telling you to pick all 6 in the top, right? Because obviously with the bucket system, it's saying, hey, we want to grab 2 guys, with course history better than 20, average finishing position. And then we want to grab 2 guys that are between that 20 and 40, and then we want to grab our last 2 guys somewhere 40 and above. That's obviously not picking the best golfers within that stat category. Same goes with strokes gained, same goes with recent form, so on and so forth. So I was really toying with the idea of just scrapping this all together, but not so much all together. But I think there's still some good information I provide that you don't find anywhere else when it comes to this general information. Grass stats being one of them. I mean, if you followed during the Players' Championship, how many people right away said it was Bermuda? I mean, I'm also questioning the Arnold Palmer Invitational, where I don't think those greens were Bermuda. No one else is. I'm going to joke a little bit because I never use these terms, but a lot of people who create content are fish when it comes to analyzing this kind of stuff. They're not golfers. First of all, they're not competitive golfers. Secondly, a lot of them are just stat nerds or hype people or just fans, which is totally fine. Absolutely fine. But when declaratives are made of what type of grass it is or things of that nature, only because they've heard it from other podcasters who also heard it from other podcasters who may have gotten it from an old tournament fact sheet from 4 years ago or 3 years ago or whatever. You're not getting that here. I'm making sure I know my information before presenting it because it matters to me. And I mean, why would you want to know false information? So anyways, yeah, I do care about this type of video and giving you the general information. That way, if you don't have a site that you get to go to look at these stats, you can see them here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this a little bit quicker than I usually do. I'm just going to tell you to pause the video during certain times because I'm just going to scroll, down every 20 places so you can see how everyone ranks, whether it's course history or recent form. Because I don't want these videos going too long. I don't want to just cover guys who are the best in the field at certain stat categories when my final message to you guys is don't pick just golfers from the best categories or the best golfers from those categories. So hopefully you understood that. And I mean, I am interested in your guys' opinion. Does that make sense? Do you like that? Leave whatever your feedback is in the comment section or email me or direct message me on Twitter. I genuinely want to know your guys' opinion. So I think that's how I'm going to do this one. And if it goes well, then I'm going to continue doing that. I mean, I just want everything to have a purpose and not just be just thrown out to you guys. Like, here you go. You know, that kind of stuff. But anyways, let's go ahead, get into the tournament fact sheets. I like to start here because this gives us a lot of good general information. We're at the Honda Classic, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. It's like somewhere, I don't live in Florida, but it's just north of Miami. It's 4 hours south of Ponte Vedra Beach, which was where the Players' Championship was being played at. So I can say with full certainty, these will be Bermuda greens. This is all Bermuda. I do believe, if I scroll down, we do have overseeded rough, which, you know, for those that do follow me and ask me questions on grass, I think the reason why it's overseeded is because although, yes, Bermuda can grow right now, it can't grow fast enough. So when you add that ryegrass, it adds for an extra layer of thickness. That's just my guess. I don't know why it would say overseed with ryegrass. And I'm always a skeptic when something is overseeded. Why isn't the rest of the course overseeded? I haven't reached out to the superintendent, so I have no idea what is what. But I think being this far south, it's pretty safe to say that it is Bermuda, and we don't have to worry about it. But anyways, we are at PGA National, which is a golf course that has been on tour for a very long time. I didn't Wikipedia it this time, but I feel like this tournament has been played, or at least this golf course has been used at least 10 plus years. So a lot of, course history will matter more so, I think, than, I don't want to make that proclamation, but it's going to matter. I feel like it will matter. Now, one big thing to note, so first of all, this golf course is difficult. It is hard. We'll see with past results what the winning score has been and what the cut typically has been. It's a par 70. I would normally say find golfers who score well, because getting that DraftKings bonus of all rounds under 70 is very much in play. But with how difficult this golf course is, I don't know how many golfers we're going to get that will have all rounds under 70. But I would say this, knowing how tough it is, this is more of a grinded out type of golf course. If you can find golfers who do better on those types of tracks. So if you have the research tools, look at winning scores being under 12 under, or over 12 under, I should say. So 12, 11, 10, 9, all the way closer to even. And see how the players in this field stack up. Like average finishing position or even DraftKings points. Because I feel like that's probably the best way to go when trying to research the best type of player for this golf course. So again, I would normally be looking for golfers who have a scoring average on difficult golf courses at least 1 under par or better, per round, because that's going to give you a better chance to get that bonus. And that's a huge bonus. Those extra 5 points go a long way. Moving on, average green size, 7,000 square feet. I think last week was 5,500 square feet, if I remember correctly. I think average on tour is about 6,500 square feet. So you could say these greens are a little bit bigger than tour average. I don't really so much care about any of this information, but if you are a proponent or you are a believer that some guys aren't good in the bunker, which is kind of ridiculous. These are pros. They probably rather be in a bunker than the rough around the green. The information's at your disposal. This here is a bigger number in my opinion. We saw a lot of volatility at the Players' Championship where there's 17 holes that have water in play. This golf course has 15 holes that have water in play. So we're going to see a little bit more volatility there. Looking at the review video and doing the review video, we noticed that driving accuracy wasn't that big of a deal for the golfers inside the top 10. So trying to predict golfers who won't find the water, I'm not sure what stat we can use, because to me, we want accuracy golfers, but good drive percentage and driving accuracy, honestly, did not show inside the top 10 as much as I thought it would. I think we found 2 golfers in the top 20 of those stats that found the top 10 of that tournament. So I'm not sure if we're going to find it there. Interesting, we don't have a stimp meter. Seeing this, I think this is fairly low. I think that means, I mean, obviously the shorter you can cut the grass, the quicker it's going to roll out. So on the greens, 0.1, how would you look at this? I'm trying to remember my measurement terminology. Shoot. It's obviously not a quarter of an inch. It's obviously not a 1/12 of an inch. It's not an 1/8 of an inch. I don't know. Yeah, I think that is an 1/8 of an inch, isn't it? Close to. Doesn't matter. This is pretty short. Like when I compare it to other tournaments, it's fairly short. Tees, fairways, to me, not that big of a deal. This is more, and it's only 2 inches. I think we saw 3 inches at Bay Hill at the Arnold Palmer and 2.5 inches at the Players. Bay Hill, it mattered. So 3 inches getting there, that matters, hitting the rough. 2.5 inches. I didn't really see a lot of the golfers have issues hitting out of the rough, but perhaps I was looking at the wrong golfers, honestly. I didn't really see a lot of the short hitters hitting out of the rough, like to see what the result is. I really spent most of the Players Championship just recording shots on hole 7 and 14. So all I saw were really tee shots. I never saw any approach shots, so I wouldn't know, which is on me. But either way, 2 inches to me, short. This is interesting. So this is 3 weeks later than usual, and the superintendent will use plant growth regulators to manage growth on the greens and provide a consistent putting surface throughout the day. That's no surprise to me. I feel like most superintendents do use some kind of growth regulator, so that's why POA doesn't really matter all that much. You're not going to find that Plenko effect as much as we would have in the past, because everything evolves, right? Everything gets better. Growing grass is evolving. I mean, there are advances, technological advances that have perfect types of seed that are mixed with certain types of fertilizer that help grow at all different times of the year. Growth regulators are put on to either limit growth or to accelerate growth. I haven't been in the industry for nearly, could be 6 or 7 years now. I have no idea what the growth regulators are like, but the PGA Tour is going to have the best kind, right? So either way, it's interesting to see that. I wasn't concerned about that. I don't think you guys have to be either, but it's fun to look at that. I only bring it up because I want to mention the whole POA thing. I know we're not on POA, we're on Bermuda, so obviously it's not really that big of a deal, but just some useful information. All right, let's go into a weather forecast. It looks like we might get a little bit of rain here on Friday and Sunday. Thursday is going to be the windiest, and really wind is the thing that's going to matter. So they have the average mile per hour for wind at 17. That's significant. Anything over 12 is going to be significant. And you might hear from people that you want to find low ball hitters, people who hit a low golf ball. That's not necessarily incorrect, but just let's use a little bit of logic here. Hitting a low ball off the tee is going to be okay in certain circumstances. If you need the ball to stop before a hazard or anything like that, you wouldn't want to hit a low ball. In fact, I mean, and also if you want to take advantage of the wind, you would not want to hit a low ball if you have a tailwind. So, and plus you wouldn't want to hit low shots into a green either. You're not going to have as much control over that. Basically what you want, and honestly, this isn't difficult. Most of these guys on tour are on tour because they're good at golf, obviously, but they mostly hit the ball pure. And that's all that matters. You want to hit the ball pure because hitting a pure golf ball pierces through the wind. The only thing that's difficult with wind is determining where it's coming from and how much is it going to affect your distance. That is it. Don't get caught up with low ball or high ball hitters. Like don't get me wrong, there is logic behind that, but that is very primitive logic, if I'm being quite honest, because you're going to see Jason Day plays really well in the wind. Rory McIlroy has played really well in the wind. They're all high ball hitters. Yes, the longer the ball is in the air, the more it's going to be affected by wind. But also, you want more control on a golf ball. Hitting low balls does not provide that. Unless you're trying to keep a ball in the fairway, which is one piece of logic I can get behind. But if you need to place balls at certain places, distances, stuff like that, hitting low balls, the absolute worst way to go about it. So don't get caught up with low ball hitters. Not to say Joaquin Niemann won't do well. I think he is primed to do really well at this golf course, but the low ball hitter thing is just, it doesn't check out except for off the tee. That's it. Just so you guys know. But yeah, we are over 12 miles an hour each and every single day of this tournament. And that's average wind speed. If I will say this too, not come back, but check Wednesday to see if that changes, if the wind changes. If you do have wind stats available to you guys, and I know I'm kind of a believer in it's difficult to gauge wind stats, because could one golfer play during a time where the wind has been lower than at another time? Most of these wind stats are usually gathered during one time of the day, and might even find the maximum gust and then the average wind. Some guys are not playing in as high of wind as others. So like the stats are going to be really skewed. Plus, you can wait for the wind to die down to hit your shot. Wind doesn't gust or doesn't blow at an average speed all the time. It gusts, right? Obviously, if you've played, you would know. So don't get enamored so much with wind stats, but if it makes you feel a little bit more comfortable, then that's fine. I'm not really going to hold you against it. But just remember, these guys are good enough to be on tour. They're going to be pure ball strikers, most of them, and some are going to be better than others. So yeah, you could use wind stats, but don't let it be your end all be all. That's not really the right way to go. Let it determine a tiebreaker for you, and that's it. Leave it at that. So yeah, that's weather. You want to look Wednesday to see what the wind is going to be like. Maybe you can get preferential splits, like tee time splits. So if the morning on Thursday is going to be the less windy of the 2 days and the 4 different types of time pairings, or not time pairings, but time slots. If it's more beneficial to play a Thursday morning, then play a few more. I wouldn't say play all 6, but obviously let that also be a tiebreaker for you. If you're determining between 2 high price guys, go that route, or even low price guys. Doesn't matter. I guess that's all I have to say about weather. Let's go ahead and let's get into the spreadsheet, look at results. I want to show you what winning scores have been, and then what the cut has been as well. As you can see, Sung Jae won this last year at 6 under, Keith Mitchell 9 under the year before that, JT 8 under, 12, 6, 8, 9, 9. Everything's under 10. So if you're playing statement games, and this is one of the statements, if it's anything above 12, or 12 or lower, go under. Bet the under, because or select the under, because this tournament is probably going to be somewhere around 7 to 10 under. And especially if the wind is howling, this is a tough golf course. Like I said before, it's going to it's going to be around that 7 to 10 under. And if I'm going to be like really particular, I'm going to say it's going to be somewhere between 8 and 9 under. Nah, I think 10 under is in play. So it's somewhere between 8 and 10. The cut, if we look at the cut, I forget to do this every once in a while. Obviously you want to look one better. So the cut was at 3 over. Anyone who was 3 over, they made the cut. Anyone 4 over and worse missed the cut. So that was on 2020. In 2019, it was 2 over. 2018 was 5 over. 5 over. That's crazy. 2017 was even. If you remember, that was the 12 under winning score. So obviously, if there are low enough conditions, it could get closer to even. But I'm going to guess it's going to be right around that 3 over mark. So again, find your grinded out golfers, because making the cut here is probably going to be a little bit more important than, trying to find your scoring golfers. This doesn't look right. I don't think he was cut. I bet he... Yeah, this isn't correct. I bet these 3 aren't correct. This is probably Monday. It's got to be. Looks like 1 under was the... this is what their finishing score was. Crazy. Unless that was a withdraw. I'll have to double check on that, but don't mind that. This looks like it was 1 under was the cut, and this was even. So I think these, some more low scoring, 9 and 8. Okay, so it's going to be, the cut's going to be somewhere between even and 2, 3 over. So either way, find your grinded out golfers. And if you are sweating your lineups on Friday, just remember the cut's going to go down. It's not going to go up. Let's put it a different way. It's more likely going to go from +1 to +2 or +3 than it's going to go from +3 to +2 or +1. That's usually how this tournament ends up going. So yeah, we look at this because we're trying to determine, we want to find golfers who may not have the best scoring average, but make a lot of cuts. That would be a good description of a grinded out golfer, essentially. But you also, if you have the ability, query those stats, look at winning score of 12 under or higher, as in closer to even, and see what their average finishing position is. I bet you'd get a better picture of who would do well at this golf course. The next piece I usually like to cover, now this is where we get a little bit more, go a little layer deeper. Usually I would want to cover course history in recent form, but how I'm going to do it in this video going forward is we're going to look at course history, but then we're going to go to the course history bucket and talk about who you want to select. Actually, no, we'll go from course history bucket to course history, and we'll go recent form bucket to recent form, and then look at the last year and last week bucket, and that's how we'll finish this. But I like to start here with salaries as well as optimal lineups. I record all of the salaries inside the top 10. Obviously, I have them split out between top 5 and top 10. The stats that you see over here, you can see these are basically your most common salaries that are inside the top 5 and top 10. 7,400 looks to be one of the top ones. I don't necessarily go, 7,400 shows up the most. I'm going to find someone 7,400. This more or less tells me find a golfer 7,500 to 7,000 or 7,100. Try to find one golfer in that area. The fact that 7,400 was the more quote unquote popular salary doesn't really mean anything, in my opinion. I'm not one of those superstitious people who are like, 7,400. It's been happening a lot. That means we need to pick it. It just shows up, which it's just a number. For me, it's more or less you want a 7K golfer. Either way, going on from there, I do have a lot of the kind of analysis over here. You can see average salary for winner, top 5, top 10, minimum price for winners, so on and so forth. I usually like to look at top 10 and see what your average salary is, but top 5 also gives us some good information too. When this number is higher than the DraftKings number, so 8,300 is usually what you get to spend on DraftKings per player. When this number for either of these are higher or close to, First of all, it tells you want to use close to your $50,000 that you get to play with on DraftKings. It's also saying, well, it doesn't necessarily say this. I was going to say it tells us we want to play high price guys as well. That's true though. Like that, the only reason that this number is as high as it is there's going to be some golfers 10K and above mixed in with some golfers that are 6K. So it should give you a little bit more confidence to play a 10K golfer. Another good reason to think that is if we look at this analysis box down here, you can see the top 10 percentage. So what is the frequency of this salary finishing inside the top 10? 60%. It's pretty high. And then we look at 10K and above, it's 80% to finish inside the top 10. And obviously we look at top fives, we see 40% and 60% respectively. It just says the last 3 years, we've had 10K and above inside the top 10 frequently. And looking at everybody that was in those, in those salary buckets, obviously that is your frequency. So feel comfortable in playing a 10K golfer this week. I know a lot of people like to go the balanced route. I don't know if that's necessary this week. When we see this kind of number, I mean, I have seen disappointment in the past where these numbers were high and we didn't see a 10K for that 1 year. It's very possible. Again, use the percentages to your favor. To me, I like this number. It's a good one to look at. The numbers that you see up here all have to do with just that bucket it's looking at. So when we're looking at 11K, inside the top 5 versus all the other ones, we can see it ranks up there quite a bit. The two right here, they're 5, it equals 5. The percentage that you see over here is from the top 10 bucket. So this obviously would be looking at 11K and above all the way over, 10K obviously, but it's this number divided by the sum total of those numbers to get that percentage, and so on and so forth for the rest of the salaries. This is telling you 7K shows up inside the top 10 more than any of the other salaries, followed by the 6K range. So again, finding your 10K golfer to go along with your 7 and 6K golfer is the way you want to go. Now, when we look at the frequency of 7K finishing inside the top 10, not very good. 5.19, the 6K, 5.19%. All this is saying is, I mean, obviously look at the amount of golfers that fit in that bucket. There have been 135 golfers in the 6K range over the last 3 years. It's a large number considering there are only a total of 5 golfers over the last 3 years. Gotta make sure that's correct. It's gotta be, right? Are we looking at 2017? Okay, good. Man, that would have been no bueno if those stats were not correct. Okay. But when we're looking at 135, if you do your math, this is what, 1/17th the size of this bucket. So I mean, the fact that, okay, so all this says is you're trying to find a needle in the haystack. You're trying to find the correct 6K golfer, or either the 2 6K golfers that typically show up inside the top 10. I mean, that is more of your lottery ticket. That's usually what's going to win you a GPP, is finding the correct 6K golfer. And if you look over the last 3 years, 6,100 was one. Now that's crazy because usually 6K is your minimum price. 6,300 shows up, 6,200 is up there as well. That's really crazy. To me, I'd feel way more comfortable if I see 68, 67, 69, rather than see a 62 and a 61. I mean, 61 would have been in the optimal lineup, which we'll get to shortly, but there's no other 6K golfers in 2020 that finished inside the top 10. But yeah, I mean, this is how I interpret this information. It just gives me more confidence in playing my higher price guys. When I see that this percentage is as high as it is, this is usually the same. It's around 5% all the time. I've had this as high as 20%. And during that time, I think it was the Players Championship last week. There were a lot of 7K golfers inside the top 10. So it just shows up, as well as we would have anticipated. And last week, there was a lot of bloodshed, 10K and above. The percentages would have dropped a little bit more from last week, which we kind of could have expected for whatever reason at the Players Championship. So again, I think it's a good way to start thinking about constructing lineups. And just to help you, like with the reinforcement there, we can go ahead and look at, the optimal lineups for 2018, 2019, 2020. It would have included an 11K golfer. It actually would have also included a 10K golfer, a 7, another 7, and 2 6s. So 2 6s, 2 7s, and 2 10K and above golfers. You could alternatively not play Noren and switch out Fleetwood and then not play Burns. Can we do this? No, we can't. Grillo though? Yeah, this would have been 49,800 with this type of lineup. So we would have 3 7K golfers, an 11K, and a 6K. Usually that's how I'm thinking about making lineups. If we look at 2019, our optimal lineup would have had an 11 and a 10K guy, 2 6Ks and 2 7s. So seems like a trend is kind of happening. But alternatively, we take out the 6,300, probably take out the 10-7, put an 8-8. And I have $8,700 left over. I'm probably not doing, this isn't going to win us a lot of money. So I think we're kind of stuck there unless we're leaving a lot of money on the table. Like this would leave $1,200 on the table. So an 11, a 10, 2 6s, and 2 7s. Are we going to see that in 2020? Oh, yeah. The reason this is all wacky, there were 2 lineups that scored the same amount of points in the $5 GPP that were different. And so that the reason why the colors are different is it shows up the different types of lineups that were created, or the 2 different lineups that were created. But either way, optimal lineup, 11K. We're not going to have the same things, but 11, 9, a 6K golfer, 8K, 7K, and a 6,700 golfer, and that gave us 49.7, using up all the salary but $300. We could try to do an alternative route. Now, can we do that 11, 7? How about this? If we went 11, well, obviously we wouldn't have the winner, so we couldn't. But if we went 11, 6, 2 7s, a 10, a 7, that's 49.9. That was pretty darn close. So an 11K, a 10K, 2 7s. Oh, I had 3 7s. Guess that doesn't work out the way we want it to, does it? But it works out for fitting it underneath the salary, which is totally fine. Actually, I can take a look at how many points that would have been underneath the optimal lineup here. So this is the optimal lineup, 493.5 points. If we went with that. We had Steele and Westwood, I think, right? And Davis. 467. So not really. 460. What is that? 26 points below. 467 versus 490. Yeah, 26 points below. Yeah, it wouldn't have won the GPP either if we went that route. We would have been 5 points short. GPP won 472.5. But either way, it's still a pretty good starting block, right? I think if I was creating lineups, I think maybe 60%. If I'm doing that 30-30-30 that I described in the review video, I might go 60% of those lineups. So I'll break those in half and I'll do 2 duos of 11 and 10, 11 and 10, and maybe a 10 and a 9 or 11 and a 9 in that third lineup. So if that was confusing, in one lineup for 30 lineups, I'm going to anchor it with 2 golfers, 11K and a 10K guy. And then my second lineup, or my second anchored lineup, will start with an 11 and a 10K as well. And then that third one, so 30 lineups, will have like 11 and a 9K. I think that's how I'm gonna start my lineups. And really, there's a really good 11K golfer you can anchor your lineup around. It's Sung JM. So I think we can go that route. Now, that's obviously showing you the optimal lineups for 2020, 2019, and 2018. Again, it just ties in with the salaries. So it to me, this is what I like to do. I like to look at this stuff. Let's get into the other buckets. So really, those were your salary buckets. I want to start here and then go to like course history and recent form. So I always look at the top 10 buckets of, well, we just started doing the course history and recent form about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We have always been doing the last year, last week buckets, which we'll cover last in this video. But let's start here with course history, because this will give us an idea when we do look at course history, really who we want to target. So you have all the ranks right here. So this is the course history bucket, CHB, and the ranks for the ranges that you see right next to it. So basically, any golfer that has a 1 to 20 average finishing position for course history is in the 6th ranked bucket. So listen to that. Your worst bucket for course history are guys who have the best course history, that 1 to 20 range. You can see how often it happens, the frequency, but there's a caveat. Sure, it doesn't show up all that much, but we don't want to just look at the raw numbers here. I want to know what it looks like against the rest of that bucket. So of all golfers in that bucket, so I can come down here and look at all golfers in this bucket. There's only a total of 48. So not a lot, especially when you compare it to the rest of them. And this is a percentage based off of basically all of this. This divided into the sum total of that. So it only accounts for 5.6% of the entire course history totals. Coming back up here, that 6 divided into 48, that gives us 12%. So there's a frequency of 12% of this bucket finishing inside the top 10. That's pretty decent, especially when you compare it to the rest of the buckets. It's higher than all the rest of them. Your number one bucket, so for instance, your number one bucket, 40 to 60, finding a course history between 40 and 60. It happens pretty regularly. Almost 4 every single year find themselves inside the top 10. Well, that makes up 36% of everyone in this bucket, or of all the buckets that finish inside the top 10, the raw numbers, I should say. But when it looks at the entire amount of total, or the total amount of golfers inside that particular bucket, just this bucket here, it only accounts for 9%. So it has a frequency of nearly 10%. It's very close to this one, but it's obviously lower. And again, if we look at that bucket, 40 to 60, right here, there's 235. All from it should be 2020. Yeah, so I'm only counting this. I'm not looking at 2021. But 2020 to 2015, the totals end up being 235 for that particular bucket. If this doesn't make sense to you guys, please let me know, because in the past, that has been my biggest bugaboo, is not being able to properly explain this. And I felt like I did a pretty decent job there. Let me know if I didn't. And if you want me to, what's the word I'm looking for? Better explain it in the comments. Like, give me your questions. If you are, lost or anything, I want to help you out. So yeah, number one, course history bucket, finding golfers in that 40 to 60. Number 2, believe it or not, no course history. So golfers who are seeing this course for the first time kind of have a little bit of success at this tournament. Again, you can use whatever you want. If you want to use the raw numbers, 12 versus all of them, obviously you can see what that percentage is against the rest of them. Or if you want to look at that 6.25% of everyone in that bucket, obviously this particular bucket, that's not the highest. A lot of these numbers are very close to each other. And there is no min. I mean, 0 is your min for that bucket, meaning there's no real confidence in playing it. Like not solid confidence as there would be for this bucket. I'm guaranteeing we're going to see this bucket inside the top 10 a lot. We can also look at the raw numbers of how many golfers fit inside those buckets. This is really interesting. This is very noteworthy. This is wrong. This shouldn't be last week. This should be course history and recent form. But basically, when you look at the total numbers for 2021, so those numbers are accurate. If you look at the total numbers, you're going to see there are only four golfers that fit in that course history 2 bucket. When on average, there's around 30. On average, there's around 28. That's what this number here indicates. The reason that this is because we didn't have a graduation of golfers from Korn Ferry to PGA Tour or from any other tour at that matter. We're seeing a lot of golfers who basically, for a lack of a better word, are recycled. There should have been nearly 75 golfers who lost their card last year. Or maybe not with different exemptions, but usually 75 get the boot. So top 125, usually there are 200 golfers that are members on PGA Tour any given year. Usually 75 get removed. And you can see that usually on tournament to tournament by looking at these numbers. So basically all I'm getting at is, although this is a high-rated bucket, a high-ranked bucket, considering we have 24 less than average, this should be bucket 6 in my opinion. This isn't giving me any confidence to play a course history bucket 2. And it has to do a lot with that total. Now, where do those numbers go to? Well, it kind of just all goes into every other bucket. Every other bucket but course history rank 1 to 20. So really this could be... These two could be, ranked 6 for all that I care. A lot of this is just a volume game, but you can see every other number. Actually, no, it would just be these 3 buckets. They were enhanced a bit. When we look over at the totals, I guess there's more in this bucket now than there are on average, typically. See, in 2020, we had 52, and 4 ended up inside the top 10. So not a great percentage, but still the best bucket because more finish inside the top 10. Okay. The last piece that I want to talk about with course history when it comes to the bucket system is cuts made. I wanted to add this to provide you a little bit more confidence in playing a particular bucket. Again, you can look at raw numbers or you can look at the percentage. So this is the cut made percentage for that bucket. How frequently does it make the cut? So 58.272% for this bucket gives you a pretty good indication. It's a good one to choose from. Your second best ranked bucket, and these ranks should actually be looking at the percentages, would be 20 to 40, which makes sense. So, I mean, it's almost going from this 40 to 60, going down to your best course history guy, and then coming to kind of a little worse, but then having course history not, this would basically be missed cuts. You're averaging a missed cut at this tournament. That shows up. That's not very good. So that's how this is looking at. Hopefully I haven't lost you. But if we look at course history and we look at our best course history guys, now remember that inside 20 range, not necessarily the greatest. It's the worst bucket to choose from. And if we're looking at top 10s, top 20s, on average, we have 7.43 inside that bucket any given year. This year, we only have 4. Obviously, you saw that when we looked at course history. Wyndham Clark, Maverick McNeely, Robbie Shelton, and Byung-Hun An. They're the only 4. I mean, cut made percentage 50%, so we could think maybe, I mean, it's obviously lower than the average. Maybe 1 out of those 4 makes the cut. Now, does 1 out of those 4 finish inside the top 10? 12% chance. So I'm going to say no. I don't necessarily like any 4 of these guys to make the cut. That's just my feelings on it. Now, if Lee Westwood doesn't withdraw, which I think a lot of people are anticipating because he's had 2 consecutive top 2 finishes over the last 2 weeks prior to this tournament, we're starting with KH Lee going down to Matthew Neesmith in the next range of course history guys. And again, when we look at this bucket, 6.5%. The frequency of finishing inside the top 10, not the greatest, but last year we had 4 golfers. So maybe it's a bucket that's trending in the right direction. When we look at cuts made, 53.66%. Obviously, if we have enough golfers in that bucket, there's 19 of them. That's basically telling us if there's a 50% cut made percentage, 9 of these guys are probably going to make the cut, maybe even 10. And when we look here, we have Sung Jae there. We have Russell Henley, Ricky Fowler. I'm just really naming off notable guys. I think those are decent plays. Ricky Fowler, I actually have an interesting thing with him when we look at recent form to kind of give you an idea that he might be a decent play this week. But looking at the rest of these guys, again, that's considering if Lee West, that's thinking Lee Westwood's going to withdraw. But he would also be in this bucket. Now, I have a feeling, don't pick all your best guys, all of your highest salary guys here. So that would be your Adam Scott, your Sung Jae, your Russell Henley, Brendan Steele, Ricky Fowler. I don't remember where he is priced. Even a Cam Davis. Those are all your 8K and above golfers from my memory. Mix and match some of those low price guys. So KH Lee might be a good pick. I'm looking at top 10s, trying to find if I can see anyone that I like. Johnny Vegas might be a decent pick. He has an 83.33% cut made percentage. You can see that over here. When you obviously select over, you can see he's at 83.33%. Maybe Jason Duffner. He's made the cut every single year he's played this, and he's played it 7 times. If he's a low price guy, maybe Duffner's the way to go. But yeah, 9 guys out of here I would select. And again, I should have said this before, but pause the video if you want to, obviously read these stats and look at them a little bit more. Your next bucket is your highest ranked bucket. It's that 40 to 60. There are a lot of guys in this bucket. If we're looking at, cut made percentage, we have 56 golfers this week in that bucket. Cut made percentage, 58.72. That's nearly 60%. You could create a whole lineup of these guys. I don't necessarily recommend it, but you certainly could. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to talk about any of these guys. I'm going to keep them on the screen for you. And we're going to go look over from Daniel Berger down to Adam Schenk. Pause the video, read the names, see who you like. I like Wesley Bryan a lot. I like Daniel Berger. I like Jim Furyk. Russell Knox is in this group as well. So we'll go down to here. Again, pause the video, read the names. You see someone you like. This is your number 1 ranked bucket. So probably best to select those guys if you can. And then this is the rest of them right here. I really, again, I'm not going to go over everyone, but hey, there are some good names here. Some really good names. Even Keith Mitchell, a missed cut, a win, and a missed cut. Could be a decent one. The next bucket, I forget what it's ranked. This would be our 4th ranked bucket. And 5.93% show up inside the top 10. 51% of this bucket makes the cut. We have 3 more than average in this bucket. So Maybe the possibility of this bucket actually showing up inside the top 10 goes up a little bit. But yeah, here are your golfers. Again, I'm going to do the same thing I just did there. Go ahead, read them, look at the names, cut made percentage, top 10s. I forgot to mention that. I'm kind of in the way for that. Obviously, you guys can see that information anyways. But maybe look at your cut percentage. Austin Cook is down here at the bottom. Not really good with average finishing position, but 100% cut made percentage. He's actually the only guy I see with 100%. Scrolling down, Joaquin Niemann is here, ladies and gentlemen. Joaquin Niemann. He's going to be a favorite from a lot of guys. Again, this is the 4th ranked bucket. 4th ranked bucket, and looking at, again, 51% cut made percentage, 5.93% frequency of finishing inside the top 10. Nearly have one every single year that does finish inside the top 10, no more than 3. That one that did have 3, let's look how many actual golfers were in that bucket at that time. 21. So less than there was this year. So, hey, maybe we find 2 to 3 guys inside that bucket. Probably not, but maybe. I mean, it doesn't hurt Joaquin Niemann's chances. So if you are a course history guy, it doesn't hurt his chances, honestly. And then these are guys who average a missed cut. That would be what? Your 5th ranked bucket. So basically, don't touch this bucket. 5.65 frequency finishing inside the top 10. A few more than average. And a 41.94% cut made percentage. So really bad. If you see a name that you were leaning towards, perhaps reconsider. To me, just not worth it. And then, of course, our newbies here. I don't know exactly how many of these guys are new. My stats only go back to 2013. So obviously, double check to see what you like and what you don't like. The most top 10s at this event belong to Ricky Fowler with 3. And then you see a slew of guys here at 2. Again, I'm not going to talk about it. You can read. And I'm not going to cover all the guys that have 100% cut made percentage. But you can see, the top 20 guys right here on the screen. I obviously would look at how many events they've played. Stuart Sink has 100%. He's played this event 8 times. Jason Duffner played it 7 times, 100%. Russell Henley has played this 8 times, 87.5%. So those are all notable guys, all notable names with their cut made percentages. Obviously, 100 is a little bit more comforting than, say, 87. But anyways, let's talk about recent form now. I'm not going to really go that much in detail. If you were following me with the course history, you obviously understand what we're covering here when it comes to recent form. So again, this is the bucket I use. I look at the top 10. Your number 1 ranked bucket, 20 to 40. Number 2, 40 to 60. Number 3, 60 to 80. Again, we're looking right here. 4, 80 plus. 5, no recent form. And your 6th ranked bucket, just like with course history, golfers with the best recent form coming into this tournament. You can see what the frequency is, what their percentage of finishing inside the top 10 over here. Your number 1 ranked bucket that way. Again, that 20 to 40 followed up by your actually 6th ranked bucket. So 18.11% frequency finishing inside the top 10 for recent form bucket 1s, that 20 to 40 range. 13.64 recent form bucket 6. When we look at cut made percentage, again, obviously, you know what this looked like from the course history. 72.73% cut made percentage for your recent form bucket 6s, which is crazy in a way. This obviously, how the bucket is ranked here, goes by the raw numbers that finish inside the top 10. Obviously, 3 isn't a very high number. That's what this rank is based off of. When we look at cut made percentage, really I should have the ranks looking at this. And perhaps that's what I will be doing going forward. But that's your number one ranked bucket when it comes to cut made percentage. And then your number 2 is actually recent form bucket 3. That's 65. That's 65%. Really kind of your worst cut made percentages have to do down here with recent form bucket 4 and 5, and actually 2. Those 2 are under 50%. Now, again, this goes by raw numbers, so we see far more in bucket 1 and 2 making the cut than any of the other buckets. A lot of that has to do with the amount of golfers in that bucket. Surprisingly enough, let's see, are we looking at the right column? I want to make sure that's correct. 21 is H. Yep. A weird number of, like, this really changes a lot. This is not looking at the right number. There you go. Okay, so sorry, I kind of got sidetracked there. Distracted, I should say. I'm surprised by these numbers. That's what's distracting me right now. 50 is 30 more than average for this bucket right here. This is what has caught my eye and has distracted me. That and then this bucket here has gone down nearly 30. Yeah, by 30. So what we would normally see from recent form is this bucket has flipped with this bucket, essentially, for the total number of golfers inside that. Now, why this bucket usually is actually, this is your number 1 bucket when we look at it. These are all, I should change this so I'm not confusing you guys. This is the bucket. These are the ranks that I'm actually going by. 20 to 40 is your number 1, 40 to 60 is your number 2, 60 to 80 is your 3, 80 to and above. So missed cuts and withdraws are your number 4 bucket. That's what we're going with. The ranks that you see here, I have to change this. This is very confusing and it shouldn't be that way. Because this is just looking at this number, which means absolutely nothing in my opinion. But yeah, this bucket doesn't change. This is your number 1 bucket. It's 3 less than usual. This is your number 2 bucket typically, and this is 30 less. This would be your number 3 bucket, and this is also 30 less. So we're gaining more in the recent form in 80. Okay, so this might change the numbers a little bit when it comes to recent form. I'm sorry I didn't notice that before actually speaking about it, because then we wouldn't have gone back and forth with all of this. I still anticipate this being the number 1 bucket. But looking at the rest of the information, it's going to be difficult because there are going to be far more golfers in these 2 buckets here than there have been in the past. So let's go ahead and just look at it. So I'm in 2021. By the way, we are 6 golfers short because DraftKings has not added the additional golfers in the pool. So just know 6 golfers will be added to this field. There are currently 138 golfers in the field, but there's supposed to be around 144. I forgot to mention that earlier. Let's look at recent form, top to bottom. We only have 1 golfer in that the 1 to 20 bucket. Remember, this is the 6th ranked bucket. I don't have one take or another with Brandon Wu. I don't necessarily think he's probably going to be sort of like relatively high owned. I'm probably not going to play a lot of him. He's going to be under 10% owned in my lineups. I usually create 100. I might have him in 6 or 7. But here we go. Here's your number 1 bucket. We only have 14 golfers in it. I do feel like the cut made percentage for this is going to still remain high. You've got Westwood, Sung Jae, Daniel Berger, Joaquin Niemann. All your 10K guys are here. I really think you need to anchor one of your lineups around one of these guys, or maybe two. Remember, 11K and 10K is the way most of the optimal lineups were created. That's probably going to be very much the same case with this tournament. Remember, 72% cut made percentage for this bucket. This would have been the number 2 bucket. I'm going to say it's going to be... It probably still will remain the number 2 bucket, if I'm being completely honest. Although we're going to see more golfers in that missed cut and no recent form. Ooh. We might have been looking at the wrong... We were. Oh my gosh. Can't believe I didn't catch this earlier. Are these the same too? F? I think we're okay with that. So definitely G, definitely F. Okay, perfect. This is gonna change, guys, and I'm sorry. So this bucket stays the same. This doesn't really change. These buckets stay the same. Well, I don't have editing software, so I can't go back and change this out. All the buckets remain the same. Let's just put it that way. They're all going to remain the same. I can't believe I didn't catch this. I apologize. So all things are going to stay the same. There was something flashing over on this screen that I was concerned. It had to do with the recording information. How about this, guys? If you've made it this far and you're listening to this, because this is a really good point where if I did lose some of you guys, you're not going to get rewarded. But if you're here, you're going to get rewarded. If you want the optimizer that I go over in all my strategy videos, go ahead, like the video, comment in the YouTube section, and then email me that you would like this. If you're on Twitter, all you have to do is like the tweet that I send out, retweet it, and I will reach out to you. So if you don't already have the Honda Optimizer, I am going to provide it for you guys in this for getting all the way to this point, just as a reward. I don't want to punish you guys for having to go through that, only to find out the buckets remain the same. But yeah, the buckets remain the same. So we're all fair game when it comes to this. So this bucket is your actual bucket 2. A lot of good golfers. Again, what I'm going to do is we'll just go top down, look at who they are. I'm not going to talk about them. We have some good price guys in here. Shane Lowry just had a good finish the last tournament. Definitely consider him. Russell Henley's there. Decent. So yeah, this is bucket 2. There are a lot of golfers in this bucket. You're going to see a bunch of top 10s from that bucket. This would be your recent form bucket 3. Golfers in this range. Again, just take a look. I'm not going to cover everybody. Russell Knox is someone I like. I think Ricky Fowler's in this one too. And I do want to bring something up with Ricky Fowler. Yeah, Ricky Fowler's right here. So here's the interesting stat. If we look at past years inside the top 10 and we try to find one of these 60s and we look over, we're going to find a top 20. That was 2019. What was 2020? There was a top 20. So if we go to 2018, I have a top 26. It's close. No cigar, really. So it doesn't really apply in 2018. 2017, we had a top 10 at the Genesis, no less. So Genesis, That wouldn't be the Genesis here, but Farmers Insurance, it's a pretty decent one. Genesis here with Russell Henley. Looking at 2016. I mean, there's a 34, there's a 21st. I guess that works, right? With Justin Thomas, a notable name, I guess. Oh, top 10, Luke List. That's sure. Another 20th at the Genesis. And then 2015, not quite. Yeah, not working at this one. So we had a 50% rate right now. Probably going to end there, though. So anyways, might be a reason to play Ricky at this tournament. Good history, course history. Fits that top 20 at Genesis with a kind of bad recent form. Might be a decent play. This wraps up that recent form bucket 4. And then coming down to recent bucket number 5, Doc Redman is out. So I'm just going to remove him completely. Yeah, I wouldn't touch any of these guys, honestly. I mean, 1 or 2 might finish inside the top 10. That's fine. I don't think anyone's winning from this group. And everyone's priced at 6K and below. So maybe don't select your 6K golfers there. And then no recent form. I forgot, what bucket was that? Number 5. Okay, yeah. So I wouldn't touch this bucket, number 5. But that was your recent form course history. You know, I think tomorrow we're going to get into last year, last week. I don't necessarily want to bring it up in this one, and that's fine. I can keep it to next one. This is already over an hour. I said this video was going to be short, and it wasn't. I did like how it was structured. I'm sorry about the recent form part. That's my bad. But tomorrow, the strategy video, we will go over the last year, last week buckets. I forgot that this should have been frozen at the top. Just mistake after mistake. There you go. So I did give a giveaway. This is the outro. I did give a giveaway. Okay. Let's just keep repeating that. But there was a giveaway. There were directions on how that was done in this video. You're going to have to find it. I don't want to reward people who just, well, if you skipped around and you got to that part, perfect, that's fine. But I don't want to tell anyone who just skips to the outro or anything like that where you can find the giveaway. Hopefully you watch the whole thing and you will be rewarded, especially with the little mishap that happened in there with the recent form buckets. There you go. I just gave a little hint. So I do want to reward you guys for watching it. Again, it's available to you guys. Give me your opinions on how this was structured. It went longer than I wanted it to, and I did it a different way this time, but I liked how this one was done. And I think this is the structure I'm going to be doing going forward. Probably get, talk a little bit quicker on it, but either way, I thought it was fine. So with that, I will bid you guys adieu. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the strategy video tomorrow. Okay, bye.